I wanted to take a second to thank our sponsors, Whole Foods Market, the Public Health Institute, and Roots of Change. Without their help, we couldn't present this podcast.
Flipping the table.
This is Michael Reed Dimmock with a final episode dedicated to the slow food movement. It results from my recent trip to Denver for the third annual Slow Food Nations event. Let me begin with some background. I became a dues-paying member of Slow Food in the mid-1990s and remain one to this day. In 1997, I founded the Russian River chapter in Sonoma County. It has been one of the most active and successful in the nation. Our impact grew from the fact that we always had a large volunteer leadership team that shared the burdens of running a chapter, which at its peak had hundreds of members and over 1,000 people on its email list. We put on many educational events every year and launched several projects that continue to this day. We have raised tens of thousands of dollars for community food projects. I was a member of that team for at least 15 years, and it taught me a lot about organizing and leading, and it gave me a circle of lifelong friends. Because of Russian River's accomplishments, I was asked to join both the U.S. and international boards of directors and spent many weeks over many years working with Slow Food founder Carlo Petrini and the leader of Slow Food International, Paolo Di Croce. I stepped off those boards in the middle of 2000s when I took the job at Roots of Change. But I remained connected to Slow Food and worked with the team that put on the monumental 2008 Slow Food Nation event in San Francisco. With great support from Gavin Newsom, then mayor, those 3 days and the 80,000 people who attended awakened the major media outlets of the nation to the seriousness of the food movement. Roots of Change provided funding, developed the event's policy statement called the Declaration for Healthy Food and Agriculture, and organized the rally where it was first read in the San Francisco City Hall. We also organized and hosted on the first day a gathering of 600 activists from across the land, which was called Changemakers Day. All of this to say that I am clearly biased in my views of the organization, and I'm also willing to see its light and its shadow. Having admitted that, I offer the following 4 thoughts about slow food and its future. Thought 1. Despite the criticism that it is elitist, slow food has always been a middle-class movement in the U.S. and abroad. Yes, here in the U.S., it was first populated by foodies, and it's certainly dominated by white folks. Yet most of those foodies were and remain what I would call systems foodies. This means they are people who understand that what we eat impacts culture, local economies, worker lives, ecosystems, the treatment of livestock, and certainly farmers and ranchers. And most members are the type of people committed to lifelong learning, and they have evolved. My primary evidence of this evolution is the increasing embrace and commitment to equity, inclusion, and justice. Since the earliest years, Slow Food has focused on and supported Native American communities, and for at least a decade, it has worked to include African American farmers, chefs, activists, and makers. I will say more must be done to effectively include Latinx communities in its activities. But there is steady progress. In Denver, one could see that the movement is less white than in the past. Thought 2. Today, the movement's dynamic centers are Africa, Europe, and Latin America. The movement is having real impact in those continents. For a brief time in the mid-2000s, it was in the United States. It was in those years of peak membership and action that Slow Food USA was a major catalyst that brought memes, language, and framing that impacted many people across the nation. Author Michael Pollan and Civil Eats founder Naomi Starkman in the media, Woody Tash and Arno Hesse in finance, Anya Fernald and Patrick Martins in business are just a few examples of changemakers who, for a time, placed their focus on Carlo Petrini and the major events mounted by Slow Food. Today, in part because of Slow Food's impact, there are thousands of nonprofits, big and small, that are actively seeking to transform our food system to produce good quality food, clean food free of poisons, and fair food that has come from respected and rightly compensated food chain workers. This is what Slow Food has sought. Yet, this also means that chapters face more competition for charitable contributions, public mind share, and participation. I see this as an opportunity to grapple with honing Slow Food's unique and valued role within a larger and more dynamic ecosystem of organizations. Thought 3. Slow Food owns a sweet spot related to convening and uplifting small producers. No organization in the food space that I have seen can assemble, feed, educate, and entertain a crowd like Slow Food. The first big event I attended in the U.S. was held in a beautiful barn in Bolinas, California in 1999. It was the first U.S. summit meeting of leaders, and it was dynamic, with debates and inspiring talk from many quarters. The chefs from Chez Panisse roasted a whole pig on a spit and served incredible vegetables, salads, potatoes, and beverages. I was lured into regional and national leadership because I met cool people trying to change the world, and they knew how to cultivate joy, dare I say pleasure, by throwing fabulous parties with a purpose. I found this fun-loving quality very rejuvenating in a world mostly deaf to my hopes for change. My second event was the 2002 Slow Food International Awards, which were like the Academy Awards for food producers from around the world who were saving endangered foods and cultures. It was held in the Opera House in Naples, Italy, a place of splendor where red and gold surround the audience. I wept through most of the event as one after another, often indigenous, smallholder farmers, fishers, and food producers came to the stage in their traditional dress to receive an award and offer remarks about their shrinking worlds. I remember bright-colored wraps, handmade beads, animal skins, feathers, and piercings. I saw great dignity and almost a magical look of pride and humility, all at the same time on the faces of awardees. The ceremony was followed by an international congress of leaders that culminated with a huge meal in the ruins of Pompeii, where Italy's top chefs prepared the meal. And then, of course, it got more amazing. 2 years later, in 2004, Slow Food produced the first mind-blowing Terra Madre, which continues to this day. Suffice it to say, it was among a few peak life experiences for me. Slow Food had invited and paid for nearly 5,000 small producers who were saving biodiversity and culture from around the world. Most had never left their home regions, but they came to Turin, Italy, to be honored and to share space in order to learn and gain strength from one another. I worked with a small team that included the special event organizer and chef Ali Giorsi and Anya Fernald for nearly a year to send hundreds of delegates from across the U.S. We raised the money to offer travel stipends to all who needed them. On the event's second day, a spontaneous marketplace emerged in which the delegates bought or traded with one another. No other organization seeking food system change had or has ever so honored and so elevated small producers in a world where they are minimized and crushed by industrial food and globalization. Terra Madre supercharged slow food's growth and forever bonded small producers with the organization. Really, what other organization has had the vision and the chutzpah to pull off such transformational events? None that I can see. Slow Food is a master of convening and uplifting to help small producers survive. This is a needed role, and I hope the U.S. continues to hone its chops at creating such events in the U.S. Slow Food Nations in Denver is a manifestation of that effort, and I hope to see many other regions take up with equal gusto the challenge of mounting large events. My final thought. As with the entire food movement, leadership is the key to slow food's future. Carlo Petrini and Paolo De Croce at the international level, Krista Roberts in Denver, Julie Schaefer in Atlanta, Jennifer Breckner in Chicago, Charity Kenyon in Sacramento, Paula Shatkin and Max Caruso in Russian River are among a large group of model leaders. Their commitments and many more like them are the keys to slow food success. The movement needs people willing to assume responsibility as volunteers who reflect slow food's progressive and inclusive values and who take action and more action that touches people in their communities. Slow Food USA has been slow to develop a robust way to remove lackluster, manipulative, or inept leaders from its midst. This may have hurt its momentum. Chapters flounder because leaders do. Better to close chapters or fire leaders, yes, fire volunteer leaders, than to let them become dysfunctional. My hope is that Slow Food places its focus on better methods to recruit, train, and recognize leaders. This could go a long way to revitalizing Slow Food USA's impact on the nation. It needs skilled networkers, evangelists, and diplomats that effectively invite, inspire, and organize action. I also hope Slow Food USA develops a crack events team, as Slow Food International has done, to mount stupendous convenings that capture the imagination of people and inspire them to rally around those who protect our agricultural and food biodiversity. Despite what some are saying, Slow Food is still very cool. As all organizations, it has been going through a needed period of reformation. Roots of Change and many of our allies have certainly had them. Although only a chapter member these days, I remain committed to Slow Food's development and role in the food movement. Thanks for listening. We've been focusing on great female leaders who are making important changes in the food system. Anna LePay, the author and activist and now philanthropist, Navina Khanna, who's trying to organize the food movement nationally through the Heal Food Alliance, and Nicolette Hahn-Nyman, who has been writing incredible books and doing great advocacy around the importance of livestock in the food system. And finally, Leah Penniman, who is an author who's written a book called Farming While Black and is the co-founder of Soulfire Farm in upstate New York. Amazing interview about her life and work. These are powerful women shaping our food, and I hope you'll listen. Thanks.